Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celsius 233, your go-to place for fiction book summaries. Today we will lose ourselves in The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. The Count of Monte Cristo is a classic adventure novel by Alexandre Dumas, first published in 1845. Set in early 19th century France, it follows Edmond Dantès, a young and promising sailor who is wrongfully imprisoned due to a conspiracy of jealousy and betrayal. The story charts his transformation from an innocent man into the mysterious and wealthy Count of Monte Cristo as he embarks on an intricate quest for revenge. Dumas' novel explores themes of justice, vengeance, mercy, and the consequences of human ambition. Plot summary. The sun blazed brightly over the bustling port of Marseille as the Pharaon, a proud merchant ship, sailed into the harbor. At its helm stood Edmond Dantès, a young sailor with a brilliant future ahead of him. He had everything: a promising career, the love of the beautiful Mercedes, and the respect of his peers. As soon as the ship docked, Edmond rushed to embrace the life awaiting him, his father's joy, his fiancée's embrace, and his impending promotion to captain. But beneath the surface of his charmed existence, jealousy and treachery had already begun to work their poison. Danglars, the ship's purser, envied Edmond's rapid ascent in the ranks. Fernand Mondego, obsessed with Mercedes, could not stand to see her betrothed to another man. Cadraus, a neighbor consumed by envy, looked on greedily, while Gérard de Villefort, an ambitious prosecutor, acted to protect a secret of his own. Together, these men conspired to destroy Edmond's life. They falsely accused him of carrying a letter from Napoleon to the Bonapartists, a crime punishable by death. On the day Edmond was to marry Mercedes, he was arrested, betrayed by men who once pretended to be his friends. Thrown into the hellish Château d'If, Edmond languished for years in solitary confinement, consumed by despair and confusion. He had no understanding of why he had been betrayed or who had been behind the plot. As the years dragged on, Edmond met Abbé Faria, an elderly and wise fellow prisoner. Faria became Edmond's mentor, teaching him languages, science, philosophy, and the art of strategy. The abbé also revealed the existence of a vast treasure hidden on the Isle of Monte Cristo, a treasure that would give Edmond the means to change his fate. When Faria died, Edmond seized the chance to escape by taking the place of the abbé's body in the burial sack. His daring escape marked the death of Edmond Dantès and the birth of the Count of Monte Cristo. Upon discovering the immense treasure, Edmond transformed himself into the mysterious and powerful Count of Monte Cristo. He was no longer the innocent, hopeful young sailor, but a man of boundless wealth, knowledge, and unshakable purpose. He carefully constructed a new identity and set about executing his intricate plan of revenge. With his fortune, he crafted an impenetrable aura of mystery and authority, which allowed him to move freely among the elite of Parisian society, where his enemies now flourished. Edmond's former betrayers had risen to prominence. Fernand, now a count, had married Mercedes and fathered a son, Albert. Danglars had become a powerful banker, wealthy beyond his wildest dreams, while Villefort held a prestigious position as a royal prosecutor. Only Cadraus had sunk deeper into misery, his greed and jealousy having ruined him. The count approached each of them with chilling precision, weaving a web of deceit, manipulation, and vengeance. He infiltrated their lives under various guises, using his wealth and influence to learn their secrets and exploit their weaknesses. The Count's first target was Fernand Mondego, now a decorated general and count. Fernand had built his fortune on treachery, betraying Ali Pasha, a Greek ruler, to the Turks for personal gain, leading to Ali Pasha's death and the enslavement of his family. With calculated precision, the Count exposed Fernand's betrayal, ruining his reputation and stripping him of his honor. Public disgrace followed, and Mercedes, realizing the depth of her husband's corruption, left him. In despair, and with his son Albert abandoning him, Fernand took his own life, broken by the weight of his sins. Next, the Count turned his attention to Danglars, whose greed had been the driving force behind Edmond's betrayal. The Count orchestrated a series of financial disasters, exploiting Danglars' insatiable hunger for wealth. Through a carefully planned series of schemes, he drained Danglars' fortune, reducing the once powerful banker to ruin. Danglars, who had lived for money and power, found himself penniless and fleeing from his creditors. His fall from grace was swift and complete, leaving him to wander, a broken man with nothing to show for his years of scheming. Villefort, the ambitious prosecutor, faced the most devastating of all the punishments the Count had devised. The Count uncovered Villefort's darkest secret. Many years ago, Villefort had fathered an illegitimate child and, to protect his reputation, buried the child alive. The child, however, survived and grew up to become Benedetto, a criminal who would ultimately return to haunt his father. The revelation of this buried crime unraveled Villefort's life. His family fell apart. His wife poisoned their children and eventually herself, while Villefort's mind shattered under the weight of his guilt and the destruction of his legacy. The once proud prosecutor was left a raving madman, wandering the ruins of his life. Amid these calculated acts of vengeance, the Count occasionally revealed glimmers of the man Edmond Dantès had once been. He could not forget the kindness of the Morel family, who had once employed him and tried to secure his release from prison. The Morel family, now facing financial ruin, was saved by the Count in a rare act of mercy. He secretly paid off their debts and restored their fortunes, sparing them from the destruction that befell his enemies. This act stood in stark contrast to the relentless nature of his revenge, a reminder that Edmond's heart was not entirely lost to vengeance. However, as his enemies fell one by one, the Count began to wrestle with the consequences of his actions. His carefully crafted justice brought him little satisfaction. When he encountered Mercedes, who recognized the man behind the mask, she pleaded with him to forgive Fernand for the sake of their son, Albert. Though Mercedes had married Fernand in desperation, she had never forgotten her love for Edmond. Her plea reached the remnants of Edmond's soul, stirring emotions he had long buried beneath his thirst for vengeance. But the Count, though moved, could not abandon his path entirely. He watched as Mercedes and Albert left their ruined home, knowing that his vengeance had destroyed the only woman he had ever loved. Fernand's death, Danglars' ruin, and Villefort's madness should have brought Edmond the peace he had long sought, but instead they left him with a profound emptiness. His enemies had paid for their crimes, but so had he. The joy he had once known, the simple life he had dreamed of with Mercedes, was forever beyond his reach. His vengeance had consumed not only his enemies, but also his own humanity. It was only through his relationship with Haydée, the daughter of Ali Pasha, that Edmond began to see the possibility of redemption. Haydée, whom the Count had saved and cared for, had fallen in love with him. Her love, untainted by the darkness of his past, offered him a path away from the cold, calculating persona of the Count of Monte Cristo. With her by his side, Edmond began to understand that mercy, forgiveness, and love could heal wounds that vengeance could not. In the end, Edmond chose to abandon the identity of the Count of Monte Cristo. His enemies were vanquished, but he had realized that the pursuit of revenge had not brought him peace. With Haydée, he sailed away from Paris, leaving behind the ashes of his old life. He was no longer the avenger, no longer the Count. For the first time in years, Edmond Dantès sought a future free from the chains of his past, a future where love and redemption might replace the darkness that had long consumed him. Hope you enjoyed that. If you want more, explore other amazing works by Alexandre Dumas. You know where to find them. Check the description or Celsius 233. Remember, while our summaries capture the essence, they can never replace the full experience of reading the book. If this summary intrigued you, consider diving into the complete story, buy the book, and immerse yourself in Alexandre Dumas' original work. Bye-bye, take care, have fun.